Hey y'all, thanks for vibing with
CeCe and
Chichi, where we talk about all the hot topics. What's your vibe?
girl, we just getting this week started. I'm just vibing on some water, a little juice here, nothing too major. What about you? What you feeling like? What's your vibe?
It's lots of mixed vibes, but overall, I'm on red wine, just trying to help me with these mixed vibes, get my vibe
Yeah,
right. So
girl.
I haven't drank no wine in a long time. So when I
Mm-mm.
tasted, I was like, oh, that's kind of like
Okay.
bitter. I had to have my husband taste it. Said, is this right? He said, no, that means it's strong, it's fermented, or whatever he was saying, his scientific self. So I said, okay, put some ice in it, and here I am.
I know that's right. Well, cheers to the vibes becoming smoother, smooth sailings, figuring it out in time. No pressure, really.
How's your
Because
day going though?
my day is going pretty good. I'm feeling like I get the mixed vibes that you're gathering as well. I
Yeah.
feel like for me personally, when I start getting a lot of mixed vibes, it makes me tired.
Hmm.
Like it could be mixed vibes for myself, from other people. It's just like a lot of energy, emotion. I just be getting tired. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Let me go take a nap. I know everybody
Yeah.
don't have the ability and the time frame to do that. But for me and the way, my life is set up right now, I do have a little bit more freedom. But girl, when those
Good.
vibes start getting uncertain, I'm just like, let me take a nap.
Right, girl. That's all I need to do. But
Yeah.
my kids told me, no, mom, after you finish recording, we need to play some games and all this charades. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be out there playing some charades. But lately, these
Mama.
past 2 days, I really have just been coming home and just like sleeping. I don't know what it is, but
Good.
we'll see.
Okay. At least I'm not the only one. I'm like, collectively, I feel so many people have been saying they're tired. I don't know if it's the sun, it's hot outside, folks is drained, this 108 weather. We all just like,
True. And I called
girl.
myself being out there when I came home. I was adventurous. I said, okay, kids, before I take my clothes off, let's go outside to the playground. And then after that, I was out. I was like, okay, this is
Ow.
5 minutes of energy. So,
Girl, you gotta take what you can get. But it'll work out. Vibes are like ebbs and flows of life. Sometimes they're mixed, sometimes they're smooth. That's just part of living. And I think that's what people don't realize. Like, we advocate for good energy, but
yeah.
we have these topics to talk about. Let's just go ahead and dive in. So, we got a lot of feedback from our last episode, mostly just like in person. So I kind
Yeah.
of want to continue to roll with these conversations of relationships and, what that looks like for men, women, and all those things. So, my first question, and I think this really takes some introspection, like really thinking about yourself. And I had a conversation with one of my guy friends earlier in the week, and we talked about this. And so I feel like it's a conversation we need to have, especially with our significant others, maybe
Mm.
even friends, honestly. But the
That was
question I have,
good. Okay.
that's a good one,
Hmm.
right? The
Yeah.
question, my first topic that I want to bring up is, what do you think makes it hard to love you? What about you makes it hard to love?
Oh my gosh. Okay. You know
Yeah.
what? This is gonna be a challenge. This
Okay.
is not even this is a random. I'm gonna ask you to, you know me, you probably know me the longest out of all my friends. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to tell me, and I'm gonna give you the same feedback.
Ooh, okay. We about to really do
Raw,
this.
okay?
Okay, we got to practice what we preach.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to flip it. I think for you, from a friend standpoint, what probably makes it hard to love you is you can be very strong in your stance, and it's almost like it's hard to persuade you. Now,
Mm.
you are the friend that once you're gonna do it. If your mind's made up, you're down. But if
Mm.
it's persuading that has to go into it, people have to put the elbow grease into that.
Not the
Like,
elbow.
you got to
Okay.
put the elbow grease, you got to put some muscle, you got to have
Okay.
all your facts, and even then, even then, it may or may not go over with you. So, I mean,
Okay.
it's not like a huge thing that I can think of, like, oh, well, you're rude, or sometimes it's none of that. I just
Okay.
feel like for you, when it comes to loving you as a friend, um, or trying to convince you to see a different side that I personally as a friend want you to really support or engage with. Once your mind
Mm-hmm.
is made up, that persuasion is literally wrestling an alligator.
No,
So
not the alligator. Ooh. No, but that's good feedback because I was gonna say the same thing. Like I sometimes could be very strong minded. So
Mhm.
yes. So going back, and giving you some feedback, I think that and one thing that it could either go left or right is because also you are very strong minded as well. And you're very strong minded and analytical at the same time. So you're
Okay.
gonna have your opinion on something, but then you're gonna think about it and so many different angles,
Yeah.
and I don't. It may not be the angle that I'm wanting you to like that I may be going with, but
Yeah.
you're very deep in your thoughts, and that's just who you are because you are deep in your body, your soul, your detox. You're really in
Yeah.
tune with yourself, and you're strong minded. So
Thank you, friend.
also you are strong minded, and also you think about a lot of different things, which
Mm.
maybe it can go left or right. We
Mhm.
don't know, but
Mhm.
so it never, you never know, but I think that that would be it too. So it will be some persuading as well. Maybe because we both
Mhm.
try to persuade each other.
That's so interesting. That is so crazy. I'm not
Right.
surprised for us,
But
but that's so like the
we're
things that
both
are.
trying to have each other see each other's sides. So like,
I kind of knew that was gonna be the case because like we
mhm.
both is like, oh man, and we agree on so many things, and even when we disagree, we respect each other, even
Yes.
though it may be a very strong stance. And that feedback, I feel friends and family members need to have with each other to see, maybe is this something that I could be more lenient with? Is this something that
Right.
I'm willing to work with, or maybe even deliver it in a different way, so that my friends can receive that more. But I mean, it's not saying that the love is not there, apparently,
Right.
but it's just so interesting that it shows up and it could be challenging in that capacity at times.
But then it's not, it's a challenge, maybe, not really,
Hmm.
but it's I don't know. It's necessary. It's necessary not to be very gullible, if that's the thing, or not to be somebody that could be pushed around. So if anything, I respect it more than anything, because I want somebody that thinks. So like think,
Right.
because I may not be seeing things that I should be seeing, or I should be more flexible in certain things. So I mean, I think it's more positive than anything, but like you said, no matter what, and just Vibe Squad was just talking to you guys, no matter what the issue may be, everybody's different. And the most important thing when you get into that difference is respecting one another. Because if you have respect and you have love, then it will flow after that.
And I agree. It's the respect, the love, the understanding, the openness to know that just because somebody is not able to be persuaded in the way you would want them to be does not mean that they care about you less. That does not mean that they aren't going to be there for other things. I feel like that's where people get it mixed up. And it's just something that it's a good challenge. Like you said, I want somebody, agree, bully. I want somebody that's going to think things through, that's going to have their stance and have a reason behind their stance. But I think for me, sometimes I try not to be, I want to be more open minded because I
Mhm.
know like we could be rigid,
Right.
once our mind is made up, and then later on still end up like thinking about it a little bit more. I'm like, oh, I maybe could have looked at it that way. But in that moment, we're going to stand 10 toes down regardless. And I don't think it's a good, I mean, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. It's essentially what I'm saying. I think it's just a characteristic trait.
Right.
Characteristic trait.
And it's interesting because I learned about this summer, and one of my electives was talking about ethics and things like that. And there's something
Mm,
called objection. Conscious objection. And pretty much it is when you are faced with something like a decision you have to make. It's not that the decision is right or wrong, or the choice is right. It's a right or wrong choice, but it's
mm,
something within you that makes you object to it because of your own personal moral ethics that you go by, that you abide
mm.
by.
I
So
like that.
people have their own like conscious, unconscious ethics that they live by, and
Mm-hmm.
certain things they may just can't do because it may do something to them or unalign with them consciously or unconsciously. So it's something they object to, not because it's wrong or right. It's just something that inside of them they just can't do it. And
Ooh,
so that was something I learned. I was like, there was a particular situation I was in. I was like, okay, maybe I was dealing with conscious objection, something within
yeah,
my ethics or morals that just didn't allow me to move forward. Not that it
yeah.
was right or wrong. So it was something
Right.
that stood out to me.
No, that's a really great point. I love that explanation that you gave because it's true. And I think when people go against that intuition, their conscious moral code is them, if they go against it, is not, they're not able to really be as authentic as they would want to be. They
Hmm.
can't be really true to themselves if they go against that. And it will kind of maybe savor, or like not even savor, but it may inflict internal conflict if they do choose to go against that, where they may not trust themselves, or they may start becoming people pleasers,
Yes.
and doing things that go against their natural operations. And like you said,
Yep.
it's not good or bad, but I think that's why it's so important for us to accept each other's boundaries and
Yes.
hold space for those things, those unique um moral compasses that doesn't really
That's
affect you in a bad way. It's just you wanted this person to do something the way you wanted to, or how you wanted them to do it, and for whatever reason they can't.
And
And
it's
so that's
unexplainable
when,
because it's like in there somewhere, and it's kind of something you can't explain. It's just like it's within.
so we're gonna go ahead and move into this next topic,
Yes.
because I know we said so many good things about that first topic, and I really like how you explain that moral compass and the ethics within people to kind of choose how they want to operate for the betterment of themselves. And I think when you allow people to do that and you accept them, then it helps both parties
That's right.
deal with each other in a more cohesive fashion. So
Hmm.
moving on kind of to my next topic, which flows with this one. What do you think makes it so difficult about being in a relationship or maintaining a relationship? I know we talked about this in different capacities, but what makes relationships so challenging?
It's because you're dealing with a whole nother human that is a whole different that aligns with different moral compasses, that communicates differently than you, that may be strong minded just like you, that may be stubborn just
Mm.
like you. They may be a butthole. Ooh, not
List goes on and on.
a but I think you're just dealing with human beings that are dynamic and they're
Mm,
different. And that's what makes the relationship, in my opinion, difficult because you think something may just be simple, but this other person who has a whole different experience, lifestyle, upbringing, they may look at it somewhere different. So then there's a clash. And if you don't know how to communicate properly, then the clash becomes an argument. And I think
mm,
for me, the biggest difficulties in a relationship is when you have poor communication skills. That
mm.
can just, it just goes left. It never goes right.
Right. And I was thinking about that too. And also, a lot of times men want to be like, men are simple. We only need respect and physical intimacy. Like, that's it. But
Right.
then you're around them all the time, y'all are interacting, and there's small nuances that they want, just like women want. It's like people say they want simple things, like women, like, oh, I just want security and protection or whatever, or I just want to feel loved. It's like, okay, you want that, but then there's also other little nuances that you want too.
Mm.
And I think when we minimize it, it's not really giving it the true weight that it holds in relationships. When we minimize our wants and needs, like to say men are simple or women just want this. I do believe there's some simplicity, but it goes back to the communication, because
Right.
people do have different backgrounds. People have different ways they communicate, how they show up in
Mhm.
conversations, different triggers that you may still be trying to work through. Like,
Right.
I thought we got past this, but when I say certain things a certain way, you still are upset about it and you throw a
Yeah.
fit or whatever, or you shut down. People do different things. And I'm not saying that people don't change. We talked about this. People are able to change, but getting to really know and accepting that person, and showing up where it's like, okay, you're seeing the worst side of me right now, and you still
Right.
accept me. You don't hold any like biases or you don't use it against me. I think people, when they feel like somebody's mistreated them, they kind of want to get their lick back in a sense. And
Yeah.
people can kind of be vindictive. They don't really just forgive and let it go. They, still hold on to those emotions. And I think that can make it difficult in a relationship as well. Or, like you
Right.
said, just not being equally yoked. We have different desires. The thing is, what I've understood between relationships, and again, I haven't had like a long term relationship in years. Like, I'm not even gonna
Mhm.
lie. So, but what I've seen people talk about is like they get to a point where they people get complacent and just stuck where they're
Mhm.
at. They're not willing to compromise or hear the other person out. And the other person is tired of explaining the same things over and over. So this shuts down communication.
Mm.
And that's never a good thing if you're trying to continue to build and grow. And I mean, it's a lot. I think that could make it difficult, but I do believe there's a lot of good things too, or things that can make a relationship good if those people are open to hearing each other out and really wanting to support and nourish and hear that person and forgive that person and accept them. But, we all make mistakes. We're all going to show up differently sometimes. We have hard days, we have challenging days. Things get tough, but at the same time, are you willing to communicate? And is really putting that ego aside and saying, hey, we are here for a common goal. We're not working against each other, we're working together.
Yeah,
That's my
that's the
thoughts.
biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that I have seen in my years. It's just um, the negative part is when there's this lack of communication, when we're trying to have a communication and one person just shuts down, just stop talking or hang up the phone and just yelling or something like that. Those
Mm-hmm.
things never work. Those are those closed communication, and with closed communication there's no
Mm-hmm.
you can't resolve anything, so you become just
Right.
stagnant, and people start getting imaginative with the brains and just start to come up with all kinds of things trying to get their lick back.
Mm.
um so
Yeah.
I mean that's I mean relationship, it's good, and it's good, and it could be bad too. But if you put in the work, like we said, communicate, even on the bad days, then I mean, it can all work out. I saw something on TikTok. It was so cute in a way. It was some
Okay.
guy. He was like, he said, when I get in a relationship or when I get married or whatever, we're not going to get divorced. So if you're mad, go to bed,
Mm-hmm.
wake up, and let's do it again. If you angry, go to bed, wake up, and let's do it again. Because I'm not going nowhere. So I thought it was the way he said it was kind of like interesting. I was like, I don't know how to take that, but I guess essentially like you're gonna go to bed and then wake up and try again.
Try it
And
again. I mean, I think there's something to that. Like, why can't it be that simple? But I do think it requires people that are healed and accountable
Mhm.
and flexible to say, like, hey, I'm upset, I'm gonna go to sleep and we're gonna start off on a new leaf. Like we're turning over a new page. But then if those same behaviors keep happening every day, you go to sleep, you wake up, it's the same thing. It's like, well, how does
Yeah.
that really work? And another topic we're gonna dive in this later, probably but I was having a really good conversation with this guy, and he was basically saying like it's people that how did he put it? It was more so along the lines of you men are less likely to leave a marriage versus a woman. A woman will divorce quicker than a man, even though the man is unhappy and dealing with whatever he may be dealing with, because we know difficult relationship can come from either party, but it takes two to
Mhm.
be in a relationship.
Right.
So what I mean is like one person may not be showing up completely or argumentative all the time or all these things, and the other person is trying to figure out ways to work around that. But statistically, men are less likely to leave versus women. And I'm just
Mhm.
really curious about that because it's like, I'm not saying I advocate for divorce. I know it happens,
Mhm.
but I'm always going to advocate for trying to work it out if you decided to take this commitment, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, that was just something else that's like, okay, well, if the relationship is all difficult and stuff like that, and you are struggling to be in it, I mean, who is better? The person that's dealing with more or the person that's like, I've reached my limit, you know?
Right.
I don't
True.
know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't believe in divorce either. However, I'm not going to say that I'm going to stand in a marriage if it's not working out. I'm just
Mm,
not. So
really?
I don't believe in staying in a relationship if it's just not working after we have tried and tried and tried. I would not stay.
Okay.
But I will
Wow.
try. I would
Hmm.
definitely try, but I'm purposely trying because after a lot of attempts, once I file any divorce,
Hmm.
I'm probably most likely not coming back. Like there's no, oh, let's stop it. Like you should never let me waste my money. Now we got a
Hmm.
problem. Now I'm wasting my money filing for divorce. And you think I'm coming back? Oh no, you know how cheap I like to be. I am not coming back after you. I just filed for this divorce. That's the real issue. So
People get divorced and get remarried. I've been watching the show Ready to Love Dallas with Uncle
yeah,
Tommy or
yeah.
Nephew Tommy girl. And this one guy was on there. He had been married to the same woman twice and
No,
divorced twice, girl.
the same
So
woman.
that's a topic for another conversation. So let's go
Yeah.
ahead and get into this last topic because I feel like there's so many interesting things we can continue to elaborate on, but that's for another time.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, we have guests that we want to come on as well and kind of talk about these things, which we'll get around to as at some point. But the
Mm-hmm.
last topic I want to talk about is what does masculinity versus femininity look like?
Hmm.
This conversation and questioning came up recently when I was trying to visualize what makes a man appear masculine to me versus a man that may not appear as masculine. Not to say that he's not a heterosexual male that loves women, but showing up masculine. What does
Mm.
that look like and how do I receive it? And then, I've asked guys, they say that I'm very feminine and I'm a soft woman and things like that. I'm curious, like, what makes me feminine? So, some of the things that I took away
Okay, good.
to show the differences, and I was like, "Ooh, let me take notes on this," because I was like, "Look, you
Ooh.
ready?"
Yes, I'm ready. I'm a little pad here, right here, no pad.
I know, right? So, one thing that shows up feminine, or a characteristic that shows up feminine, is emotionally charged. A woman that's emotionally engaged, that shows up authentic with her emotions, may be a little bit more not whimsical, but she's a little bit more passionate in her emotions and why she feels a certain way. You made me sad. You hurt my feelings. I don't feel loved. I want you to, like that emotional and showing that side, being emotionally charged, supposedly
Mhm.
is a key factor of femininity. Not to say that men aren't emotional, but the reverse is men are supposedly more logical. And so masculinity shows up as directness, a man that is very direct, straightforward, firm. Um, and also when a woman sees that man, they feel like they can protect them.
Mhm.
So that protection, if you look at that man and you feel like he can protect you off the back, that's going to give a more masculine appearance because women, because we are tender,
Mhm.
soft, not as strong as men physically,
Mhm.
that we don't show up as, excuse me, um protectors.
Okay.
We show up as nurturers, and we
Mhm.
show up as in tune with our emotions and able to help a man with his emotions when he has those tough edges, and he wants to be able to vent and communicate his emotions. He feels comfortable with a feminine woman that's in tune with her emotions because it gives them that softness, that compassion that they need to get out of the logical, like, well, I'm doing this because this and that, to, oh, I felt this way, this person made me feel this way, so they can tap into their emotions. A feminine woman allows a man to be able to tap into their emotions a little bit more and feel
Mm.
comfortable and safe there. So how do
Okay.
you feel about that?
No, that I took definitely took notes,
Mm.
and it looks like that's straight on.
Look, the
Yeah,
report checked out. That seems to be pretty
yeah,
accurate.
yeah. Looks like this report checks out all the data. Looks about right. I don't have. I'm like, yeah, I need my man to be logical,
Mhm.
direct, and that directness sometimes is the huddle right there. That's the obstacle
Mm.
right there because sometimes they can be so direct. It's like, dang, you didn't like acknowledge my emotions, and
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
so direct, you're so X, Y, and Z. So I can see
Mhm.
that in a man.
Mhm.
Straightforward, yes. Sometimes, I mean, yes, you want that shows that masculinity, but then also I feel like they need to have a balance there because those
Mhm.
two parts, that directness and that straightforward is some of the issues that I see, in my marriage. Sometimes it's like, man, like you so straightforward, you so straight to the point. You just missed it. I know I've said this a couple times. To my husband, you missed that part right there when I was giving you all my. I was being vulnerable and showing you all like my emotions. You were so direct with me, like and so logical. You just missed it. You missed that moment where you could have hugged me. So
Mhm.
so man,
Mhm.
like I feel like yes, you want
Mhm.
to be masculine, you want to be strong, protection, but also don't miss those moments when we're being feminine. We see emotionally charged, we nurturing, we tell you our feelings. Don't miss those moments to just, get out of that and just hug us because we need that because that makes us, balanced.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yes, yeah, that's just.
that's true. And, Vibe Squad, let us know what shows up as masculinity for you, what shows up as femininity. What does that look like? How does it display itself? Because, of course, we can go into more topics and give more descriptions on kind of what we've seen and what we've heard. But we're interested to know from our viewers, like, do you agree with us? Do you disagree? And why?
Yes, and speaking to our viewers, there's a lot of news people watching our show. We see you.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely don't leave this video without subscribing. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on another show. We air every Saturday. So go ahead if you're here right now, we appreciate you. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Talk to us. Drop a comment. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, Vibe Squad. Until next time, vibing out. Peace.